One. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerds of Legend. We'll be talking about, this week, the book Dark Prism by Brent Weeks. This was a fan suggestion by Shadow's Grace. Thank you for this. I think it's my favorite book that we've covered so far.
Oh, wide margin, my favorite so far.
I don't know. Poison Study was really good, but I think this is my favorite.
Great. Poison Study was great. Sorry, I can
stepped
rant.
all over my intro, Joel. Thanks. Now we got to start all over.
My man, I'll just go over here and.
So anyway, I'm Ben, and then next to me is Joel. It's just going to be the two of us this week. Everyone else had some personal stuff, did not finish the book because it was a doozy. It was a 21-hour audiobook listen, so that was quite the journey, but I actually finished it a week early, so because that's how much I enjoyed it. I did. It was like I said, it was an awesome book. Just a couple housekeeping notes again. Thank you, Shadow's Grace, for this fan suggestion. I'm planning on finishing this series because it was awesome. At least the next book. Who knows if it keeps up, But I guess let's get right down to it. I guess I didn't have any other housekeeping notes, Yeah,
well, as always, if you're expecting a review and don't want spoilers, turn it off immediately. We are going to give all the plot right now.
We're going to ruin the crap out of this book.
Yeah, we are going to. This is a book.
There's not enough time to do spoiler, non-spoiler for this for a 21-hour read. So.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is. This is a book discussion, assuming you have read it, and if you don't care and want to read it and don't mind everybody giving you all the information, here we go.
Yeah. So a little bit of a plot synopsis. This is a bit of a tough one because there's some twists and turns, but basically. The Dark Prism is a book about that is in a very interesting sort of empire led by a prism. So there's a magical system in this book that exists based off of colors. Every color has its own emotion or power associated with it. For instance, infrared, or they call it sub-red, is basically fire and incarnate. You have yellow, which is like basically happy feelings and light. Green, which is wildness and sort of nature magic. It's usually used to make spikes and stuff.
The thing that really kicks it out that makes it really interesting is the characters in here are the magic produces something called luxin. Mm-hmm. Which is a tangible thing and can be used to create structures, which is what really makes it interesting. So, while you have fire magic, you could also make a building out of red luxin that will then blow the fuck up, mm-hmm. which is awesome. Mm-hmm. It's such a unique system to take the colors of the rainbow and ascribe a meaning to them. It's very reminiscent of the Darkest Night mm-hmm. series for the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't thought of that. It is very similar to that. So,
except somehow cooler.
Yeah, right?
It was way cooler. The thing I really like though is in a lot of your fantasy books, you could have a private practitioner. You can have somebody who's like, I'm a wizard and I've lived in my tower for 30 years learning spells. That doesn't happen here. Mm-hmm. This is like if Hogwarts meets the Green Lantern Corps and just slams them together. Yeah. It's like they're taken to this school called the Chromarium where they find out first off they torture the shit out of you in this test called the Thresher. And then they flash every color at it. Huh?
Emotionally torture you.
Yeah, you don't know it's torture. You're made to think you're going to die. Mm-hmm. They have one person who's going to go in there and as you're getting lowered into the Thresher, which is a hole, mm-hmm. they're like, is this the guy we're supposed to kill? And the other one's like, hell yeah, it is. So you go in there and be like, oh shit. And it's and that'll determine what color you can use. Mm-hmm. Most people are, one, maybe two colors, but then you get a kingdom or a family will then hire you. Mm-hmm. And so all magic, there's like very few free reign magicians. They all are free range, what are they called? Drafters, because they pull the color out of the spectrum. And there's almost no free range drafters. They're all in the employ of a kingdom or a wealthy family, and they all serve a number of purposes. Mm-hmm. So, like, magic just doesn't exist willy-nilly. They're all, like, essentially military.
Yeah. And the reason that magic or drafting is so tightly controlled is because overuse of drafting it breaks your brain. So, like, you go, like, mad and become what's called a wight. That's, annoyingly enough, W-I-G-H-T, not W-H-I-T.
Yeah, real confusing in the audiobook.
Especially since you're like, oh, we're talking about colors all the time. He must be talking about the color. And you're like, oh, no. This is like, you become like this crazed person that, like, overuses Luxon and just, like, loses all reason and just goes on rampages. So that's why it's so tightly controlled, is because it causes that madness in people. You do what's called breaking the halo, because you can tell what color someone drafts by the color of their eyes. They develop different colors in their irises that tell you what they can draft and what they can't.
Yes, and when they go crazy, that halo in their eye breaks.
Yeah, so then their whole eye turns red, or the whole eye turns green.
And in the beginning, you're led to believe, like, the color whites, you just, like, wake up, then they go a little crazy, and they're a little unpredictable. But then you find out, like they're not necessarily just unpredictable. So what goes into the whole crux of the story is, and this is the biggest spoiler, and I am going to put this out there, the main character is named Gavin. He has a brother named Dazen. And Dazen led a war. They called it the Prism's War, and he fought against his brother Gavin, who was the actual Prism. Mm. And Dazen beat the shit out of Gavin and just was like, I'm the Prism now, and didn't tell anybody. So everybody calls him Gavin. So
what he did was because he knew that his army couldn't defeat the true Prism, or the current Prism, he basically was like, they looked similar enough that he just, like, beat the shit out of him, hit his body, and then, like, became, like, said, I'm Gavin. I'm totally Gavin.
The only thing that slips him up is Dazen was a much better drafter than his brother.
Yeah. So basically, he's a super chromat where Dazen is not.
Yeah, a super chromat means, now in this one, your ability to see color means how effective of a drafter you are. Like me, I'm colorblind to, like, red and green. I would suck.
Yeah.
So, but I'm really good at seeing, like, yellows and blues. Mm-hmm. So, like, if I couldn't, so, like, the variations, like, yellow is this really unique, color that by itself is almost impossible to draft into anything useful. But it bolsters everything else. So everybody's constantly making these structures, these hollow structures, and filling it with the yellow Luxon, because the yellow Luxon will repair and strengthen different structures. And so these yellow drafters are, like, used. They're used to, like, amplify a number of different things. But in the Chromarium, the big school, Hogwarts for the drafters, there is a tower of yellow Luxon, pure yellow Luxon, made by a super chromat, and you learn that the better you're able to interpret the variations in the color, the stronger your structures will be. So somebody who just can see red and is a red drafter could make passable, functional items or structures out of the Luxon, but they won't last as long as, say, a super chromat who knows, hey, this hue of red is the most durable and can hit that every single time. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Gavin comes out to be. Mm-hmm. Not Gavin, not the real Gavin. This is where it gets really fucking confusing.
Yeah, so, like, the other thing is, like, the guy who's posing, it was Gavin, who's Dazen posing as Gavin, hid his brother in a prison
that sucks color out.
That sucks color out of you. So you put him in a blue prison, so the only thing that he can draft is blue.
But blue
exactly. So
yeah. So he can draft all day of the blue.
And this is my main gripe about this book, is it is very confusing to keep track of who we're talking about. Because, like...
Only with those two. With those two. So, they flip.
So they're like, Dazen, who's the good guy, or... will switch back and forth between referring to himself as the different names. And so you don't always know if he's talking about his brother or if he's actually talking about himself sometimes.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So, it gets confusing sometimes. And that's my only gripe about this book. Everything else is amazing.
Honestly, I will tell you in the very beginning, it was a little confusing in the beginning, to throw it on and listen to the audiobook. And I will tell you, when you listen to the audiobook, you have to be clear that the whites are not white. There is the white, who is the leader of the grammarium. And then there's also whites, W-I-G-H-T, which are the drafters that have gone crazy. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to the whites a little bit more later. But the story starts out with, I believe you're in Wrexham, which is a town in Tremaria, which is where the Prism's War was staged, and they were loyal to Dazen, the actual Dazen. Mm-hmm. Which now, going forward, we're going to refer to Dazen as the dude in jail, and Gavin is the main protagonist, just so we don't get confused. But in reality, they're switched. So anyways, Tremaria followed Dazen and lost the war because of it, everybody decided, fuck them, they don't get their own army, we're going to take away everything, and other satrapies, which they call the surrounding kingdoms, will take turns governing it. Mm-hmm. And so, shocking to nobody, 16 years later, they take 2 years governing Tremaria, and they pretty much just looted it to shit. Yeah. And now the new guy, there's an upstart king, he's a young guy named Rask Haradul. And Rask Haradul has decided, fuck all this shit, I'm the king, I'm not going to be the satrap, I'm not going to be the ruler of this area, I am the king, I'm going to start my own chromarium, I'm going to train my own drafters, done. And he's like, he
was able to do it in secret because all of the other satrapies didn't care, they just, didn't police anything, they just wanted to,
pillage. Yeah. And so they would, swing in, steal stuff, bounce out, that was it.
Yeah. A bunch of taxes, leave.
Yeah. And so then you follow, Haradul gets this brilliant idea to bring everybody under his heel by going to a town called Wrexham and just burning the shit out of it. To be like, follow me or you're fucking wrecked.
Well, so what happened was they were, that village, because it was it basically had because of the war, it basically, the only males left were young boys and old men. And they refused, because they were basically subsistence farming because of how much they'd been wrecked. They refused to send any troops or taxes as tribute to this king. And so he decides, I'm going to make an example out of these hicks and burn this village to the ground.
Yeah, which he does savagely. And then you get one character...
full on, blood for the blood god, skulls for the...
Oh my god, yeah, this straight out of Warhammer. At the end of it, he does 1,000 skull pyramid held together by Red Luxon. And it's just this pyramid and the drafter who did it was a super chromat because it was going to last forever. Yeah. And they were and it's just these heads encased in this. So there's these heads that will never, ever fade.
Go away, yeah.
Yeah, and it was horrific. So it opens up, Kip escapes. It's this character named Kip, whose mom is a drug addict. She gives him a box, and she's like, Haradul sucks! Stab him with this special knife. And so he's like, sure, ma'am. But he's this fat, whiny kid. And the mom is like, oh, you're actually... She wrote a letter to the Prism. She's like, oh, by the way, remember that time we fucked? I got a baby. It's like, this is your bastard. It throws it off because this Prism never remembered this one because he didn't sleep with her. Yeah. His brother did.
Because he doesn't know every single detail about this brother's life, just the major cliff notes and what his mom could piece together for him.
Yeah, he doesn't know shit about his brother, so he's routinely like, holy fuck, my brother sucked. And, but he claims the kid because Herodul's going to kill him. He steals this knife. And the Prism has to, he's got to be like, this is my natural born son, or they're going to kill him. And so he had to claim this kid, took him off to the Chromarium.
Because he's a good
guy. Kid fucking is like the drafting god. They don't know it. They lie to everybody. The Prism gets his results before everybody else. Finds out he's a full-scale chromat, can see all the colors, and is a super chromat, so he can see all the variations of all colors. And
he's a polychrome that just keeps finding random colors that he can use.
Just pulls colors out of his ass. And
I assume by the end of this series, he uses all of them.
Total sociopath. Like those guys are like, we're going to rob you. And then he kills everyone. You're like, huh. And he's like, I feel bad. I almost got robbed. Okay, murder machine. That's cool. But yeah, just
Max in the meeting, okay?
Huh? The book is so solid. Like it's such a good. It's confusing in the beginning. Like especially if you have no idea what's going on in the very beginning. All the colors and the drafting and everything. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like I was confused for a little bit, but
so I think that's what's a great strength of this book is it doesn't like. A lot of times, like anytime you read a fantasy book, there's a 99% chance, or there's 75% chance that you're going to spend at least like 3 chapters getting like the dissertation of how the magic system works.
That's like sci-fi where you try to figure out what the fuck heck they're talking about.
Yeah. But this one,
especially if one like makes their own up, it's always a shot in the dark. Or like when they make their own system up, you're like, please don't be awful.
Yeah, but this one's fully expositional. You like learn it, like it drip feeds you just enough, so you like are like, okay, so colors are involved somehow. I don't quite get it, but then it like shows you a little bit more and more and more, and you're like, oh, I like
one thing I loved about how he did it. Was as each user came in, he was able to incorporate the explanation in a story in the story. Like when he was teaching when the Prism was like called in and like, you promised to teach the super violet something, and he's like, I hate this. And the Prism had to go teach the super violets, and he's like, this is how you do it. And then he actually explained to you what super violet was and what the purpose is, and then he explained to you what yellow was. Like it's not like where you sit there and you get like a little like wiki at the bed, like a glossary
like
at the back.
Teacher breaks out the whiteboard and starts pointing.
All right, children, who's feeling green today? That's wild energy. Fuck this.
Here's my slideshow. Buckle up, kids.
If you look at my slideshow, you see blue is order. Any of you feeling blue today? None of that shit happened. It's all in there and explains. And then it also explains like how drafting and your emotions get into it. Like when Karis gets pissed and all she sees is red, literally. And she's, what is she? She's green, red, and
red.
Sometimes ultra red.
Yeah. Sub-red.
And ultra red is
sub-red.
Heat. Yeah, sub-red. There you go, sub-red. It was heat. And she gets so pissed off because it doesn't really go into detail too much in this story. But her and the original Gavin were engaged to be married. But she really liked Dazen, so she like banged Dazen, and Gavin was like, fuck that, I'm the Prism. And demanded she get married and then fathered a bastard and broke off the engagement. The reality they broke off the engagement was because Gavin lost the war and got replaced by his brother Dazen / now Gavin. And he's like, she's seen me naked. That's actually in the book. She's seen me naked. She'll figure it out. So apparently they got something going on under the clothes that looks a little different. To where if somebody sees him naked, they'll be like, "That's not you." So, all in all, like, but it seems to be in the story that Gavin, as again the protagonist, Gavin Guile, is working hard to make up for a lot of the stuff that his brother had done wrong. So he's got what he calls 7 great purposes, and because Prism's burnout after 20 in series of 7, 27, 14, and 21 years, and most don't make it past 7. Gavin is on his 16th year, and by far the longest running Prism that they have. It is, and he spends a fair amount of time trying to like go and what he does is he tracks down the whites, and the first white you see is you're like, they're going to be the whites you hear they go crazy. Their halo broke. They don't know what's going on.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Joel, but thank you very much for your subscription, Shadow's Grace. I'm glad you are enjoying what we're talking about, and thank you again for the recommendation.
Oh my God, it's such a good book. So back to it, where I'm jabbering. You get to see your first white on. I don't remember. It's in the desert. I don't remember exactly the name of the satrapy that it's in. But this is a
red desert.
Huh?
It's in the red desert. That's all I remember.
Yeah, it's in the red desert, which is shockingly mostly red, and that's why he stood out, because he was blue.
Yeah,
but the blues are highly ordered, and they are obsessed with improving and understanding and processing. And a white is like a distilled obsession with what something is. So the blue white has decided not only is he going to be super powerful at what he's doing, and blue is the best, but he can use blue Luxon to replace parts of his body. So by the time you see him, he's replaced most of his skin with this flexible blue carapace, and they draft like they breathe, because they don't give a shit anymore. They're just literally like a slave to their color. And so he is all blue, eyelids missing. They got blue filters on, so the only light that he sees is blue light. And Gavin has to go out.
Like just this grinning skull of blue by the time Gavin finds him.
Yep. And Gavin, what he does is also the Prism they follow. Drafters are claimed to be a gift of what they call from their god Ohalim, and so the Prism is also the leader of all the 7 satrapies, and at the same time is also the leader of the faith of Ohalim. So when he deals with the white, he absolves them of their sins at the same time.
Yep.
So meaning anything that they have done while they have lost control of themselves, he absolves them. So then he'll ritually execute them with the blade straight through the heart, and then they go. I don't know. It doesn't really explain. Do they go be with Ohalim? Do they don't? But they die.
I don't know what happens, but in my brain, they collect all the blood from those. It sounds like they're very careful about preserving the blood from the deceased drafter, and I'm wondering if there's some kind of blood ritual to create the next Prism. Sounds like there's a bloodbath. It sounded like there's a bloodbath, but we'll find out later, because I'm going to read the rest of these.
Oh my God, yeah. This one, and then the poison study books. Like, I really want to finish those too. But so this has got like a feel of. It's like a combination of some of my favorites. You know, I love the magic school stuff. You know, I mean, I love the like training and learning your powers. That's always been one of my favorite. I'm a big nerd. Like I've done a lot of schooling. I enjoy it quite a bit. I know Ben is going off to Purdue for his master's degree in engineering, which is awesome.
Online.
I've got a master's, a couple of them. Like I like the idea of going to school to better yourself. Like to take it to magic school. I mean, that's hardcore Harry Potter. I love that shit. And like, but then I'm also a big fan of Avatar because
still mad that owl got lost on my 11th birthday.
Huh?
I said I'm still mad that owl got lost on my 11th birthday.
Yeah, right. Hey, when Harry Potter came out, and I was obsessively reading them. Like, I had a dream where, like, all my family doesn't give a shit about magic at all. Like, none of them. I'm the only, like, fantasy dork. And, like, they all got letters to Hogwarts, except me, and they're, like, throwing them onto the burn pile out back. We don't need this shit. I'm like, fuck you. I'll take it. No, you can't go. You're a squib.
That's such a huge dream.
Yeah. No, you're a squib. Shut up, nerd. I want to go. But, yeah, it's... I like the stories of like the inborn talent, and then you have to like you have to foster and grow the talent, which is neat. That's why I like Avatar, and I like Harry Potter, because like you can't really learn it; you're born with it, but you can enhance it. You can study, you can practice, you can train, and it becomes an extension of yourself, and that becomes part of a culture that I enjoy in my stories. Yeah. It creates like a society. And a rich world, because like, how do they live? Because these drafters are funny. They don't know how to do shit but draft. Like there's no one that's like, oh, I was a carpenter and then I could draft red. Like none of them. That's all they do. And they serve like some as low as the ultraviolets. Ultraviolet you cannot see. So they do secret messages. A lot of the messengers are ultraviolets because the ultraviolets can see ultraviolet, but if you're not an ultraviolet, you can't. So they would be couriers. They would be transporters of information. They would help people keep their secrets. All the way up to like the mono. And what's funny is like the monochromes, they get like a mundane task. Because like they're really common. I draft blue. Okay, well, you're going to be like a really persnickety rule bender, but you're going to make these solid.
You're going to make buildings.
Yeah. Because blue is like the number one thing that they all draft most buildings from, because they're just, it's like if engineering had a color, it would be blue. And
you can can make your red drafter. Oh, I guess you're going straight to the front lines. It's wartime for you.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Shadow's Grace. Let's see. Is he nothing builds on the previous in the philosophy part? Yes, we did talk about that, Shadow. We love how Weeks he doesn't like give like a lot of fantasy authors fall into the trap of like, oh, here's how magic works, and do it for like a full chapter, and then like just like word vomit, and then you're like, oh, great, now this. But we haven't gotten to that yet, but there's that whole undercurrent the entire book of like this system that's gone on for so long that's basically corrupted itself, because you have this sort of like upper class of, you have these royals, but you also have this upper class of people who are drafters and are given everything they need because they have the power. And like there's this corruption that runs through everything. And then even you go to the school, and then there's like, it's not about like your talent per se. It's about who's the person sponsoring you. And yeah, I really enjoyed.
That was an awesome part. The part with Liv Danavis, where she is the daughter of one of the most powerful and revered generals and red drafters in all of the Seven Satrapies.
Oh, and that's a fun little tidbit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
For those of you that cannot see it, Shadows for Grace, the now subscriber who has, which thank you for that. He gave us this awesome recommendation, and we will be just ripping through this entire series because it's wicked. Gave us a side note. The name of their god, or Hollum, is from the Hebrew. Can't read that. That means light of the world.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to even pronounce this name, but that's awesome. And it fits perfectly. Or Hollum, light of the world. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I really liked how like Weeks. Maybe it changes in later books, but at least for this first book, you have this sort of like it shows the reader the corruption.
Ha'olam is the pronunciation of the Hebrew word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the you have this whole the corruption is shown to you. It's not, and then the characters themselves don't comment on it. They just accept it because that's how things are. But it's shown to the reader of like, this sort of like supposed to be perfect empire has cracks in it, because of the system that's become corrupted by greed or whatever. And you can see it, but all the characters just accept it, and because that's how things have always been done. So
one of the things that I really loved is, as I started saying before, was Liv Danovis, the daughter of the general.
Mm-hmm.
First off, she's Tremerian, and which is the occupied territory that we talked about earlier. That they have nothing. They have no money. Like they get pretty much sent on like.
There's no nobility left that can sort of like...
nobody will sponsor them, so pretty much they've got to like grovel to any family that's willing to take them to pay their way into the Cromarium.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a polychrome. She was yellow and ultraviolet.
Mm-hmm.
And
not right now.
But they're like, we're not going to pay for you to learn yellow. Yellow's really hard, and that's a lot of money, so fuck that. And they decided they're going to pay for them only to be an ultraviolet, which meant she would have lived a life essentially as somebody who curries messages back and forth.
Yep.
As somebody who reads ultraviolet messages. And she was like,
that's
super
all
depressed.
We're willing to pay for you. That's all we're willing to pay for.
Now everybody knew she tested as a bichrome, which meant for yellow and ultraviolet, but they're like, but it literally comes down to how much are people willing to pay for you. And the amount that you're able to learn is all based off how much money people can teach you. People can give you. So if you're a full spectrum polychrome, but you're poor as dirt, they can be like, we need blue and green. So that's all we're going to teach you. And that's it. And it shows a system that is very heavily skewed towards the haves, towards the people that we have a lot. We have all the money. We get the best drafters. So you get the best drafters. You get the better structures. You get the better infrastructure. You get better just all around everything.
Yeah.
Because if you can't afford the really expensive, well-trained blue drafters, well, then you're not going to be getting the really well-made blue Luxon buildings that become part of your structure. Or, the ones that are the blue, green, yellow, the ones that are really durable and have the flex to last through whatever storms and stuff like that. It goes into detail about how essentially the drafters are bought and traded
as currencies by these powers used.
But a lot of as Ben said before, there's a lot of drafters that have amassed a certain sort of power, and so they keep drafters within their family, and they keep going. Like there's a lot of the intermarrying of families to keep this power in there, just like a lot of the medieval nobility, that would consolidate their power by making sure, you're going to marry this family, you're going to marry this family, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And a lot of them have, and since the nature and the need of
breeding Pokemon.
Right. Like it, but the need of, but what's interesting is because each color and each ability waxes and wanes with time. Like red drafters, super important in wartime. Peacetime, not as important. The blue, the infrastructure ones, the blue and the yellows. I still don't know what the hell orange does. They talk about the orange draft. I don't know what the hell that does, except makes it slippery stuff. Like, that doesn't really feel useful. They're like lubrication drafters. Like,
as far as I can tell, it's like sort of like creative energy, at least from what we've been shown. So there's a very powerful orange drafter that shows up, and he like makes the entire outside of a wall that they build show like it's basically art.
Why don't you give a background of why they're building the wall?
So basically, Gavin finds out that oh, the king's gonna try and take this port city that in Trimeria that has been getting taken over by the satraps and like bled dry for the past 16 years. Basically out of a basic guilt because he's like, I'm the one that caused this situation. And not
to mention they have let the satraps by pillaging let the residents of Trimeria no longer see each occupying satrap as a separate entity.
Yeah.
They see all of them as the same, and their mentality is, we hate all of them.
Yeah. So they, Gavin shows up and he's like, well, I'm going to defend this city. And he finds out, oh, yeah, we never rebuilt all those defenses that this former, like, fortress city had. And he's like...
Literally, it was just hanging open.
He's like, well, we've got about a week. I'm going to build a wall. And he builds an entire wall around this already walled city in Luxon in the course of a week. And everyone's like, what? Like, nobody's ever done anything that crazy. But he builds it so good that it's like, it's not something that's going to... It's basically a monument to, like, it's never going to disappear because of how strongly he built it.
Yeah. And then in that point in time, you start learning the Tyrian... I think we've been saying it wrong. Tyria is what it's called. Yeah, my fault. The Tyrians, Kip happens to be a Tyrian. And so he's like major plot character. Karis White Oak, she's a love interest, not requited. Like Gavin loves her and she hates him. Was kidnapped. And so Kip's like, I gotta go save her. Kip is a ballsy bastard. But not very bright.
Nope.
He might be brighter in the story, but now...
Basically bull in a china shop.
Yeah. He's got a lot of juice. He feels a lot like Harry Dresden, you know? Like, where Harry Dresden comes in and just, like, pours as much juice into whatever he can.
Well, it's kind of like...
And hopes it works. Like,
it's kind of like a thing where, like, all of these... Like, you see that, like, there's sort of a...
Nice. Shadows for Grace says that... the Orange are diplomats. They have a fitting for the color, makes them good talkers and liars.
Yeah, they're described as being very empathic, so they're able to like sense the emotions of people, sense when people are lying and stuff like that. That was the thing I was forgetting.
They were, as you said, as the wall was getting finished, they found a kid with a lot of juice.
Yeah.
But he was an artist, so he's like, make it intimidating, and he went for broke.
Yeah.
And made this thing like. I had to actually reread the section because I was like, did I miss something? Because all of a sudden they're running up to this wall and a spider jumps out, like kills somebody. I was like, holy shit. Like, did he actually make like these ambling spiders? No, he just made such a realistic image that it looked like this person was getting killed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So, I think that's the other interesting thing about this world is like a lot of like getting educated in the Crimeria as a drafter is sort of like the wizard route. You know, you have to like intense study how to like conserve your Luxon so that you don't break your halo and stuff like that. But
because other than the Prism, everybody has a certain amount they can draft per day.
Yeah, basically you have a life expectancy. You have a basically most drafters die before they hit 40 unless they're very conservative about their usage of the magic, and then you can actually make yourself what they call light sick by using your abilities too much. But
but not the Prism. He could go all day.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting is you have these like wizard types that study their craft and learn all like the ins and outs of like, oh, this is how all these different hues of yellow work or red or blue or whatever. But then you also have like sorcerer types that are just like Kip that are like, I'm just gonna use my Luxem however I see fit. And then at the end of the book he turns into a giant basically like green golem. And just like, starts crushing people.
He became the funny thing about Kip is like
he's like, I'm the juggernaut, bitch.
Have you seen have you seen Deadpool 2?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that fat kid that get made fun of all the time, and then suddenly he can burn stuff. He's like, I'm gonna fucking burn everybody. That's what it was. His Kip was like, stop calling me fat. Because like those guys are like, we're gonna beat him up, and he kills everybody. Yeah. And I feel like Kip's an interesting character. I really like. It didn't take long for you to realize that Kip is going to be a full scale polychrome. Like you could tell that from his test. Yeah, like. You could tell it from his test. The fact that he lasted 4 minutes, that he doesn't know. He's like, I failed.
Turtle and Man, not Golem, but it's fair.
Yeah, I think he was like you know because the Prism was like, well, I only lasted 2.5 minutes. I only lasted 1:25. Liv Danov was like, I only lasted 2 minutes in the Thresher. And so the Thresher's not a long, and then they're like, you're not supposed to last a long period of time in the Thresher. Mm-hmm. And then Kip lasted 4 minutes, like 4 minutes. Yeah. And everyone's like, holy shit, and I guess
the other thing that was interesting about the Thresher was that he would have like actually beaten the Thresher, but he was sabotaged by somebody who was jealous.
Yeah.
And
she put the rope back in his hand.
Yeah, so you have this thing where you get lowered into a pit, and then you get like bombarded by these like psychological fear images, like primal fears of like drowning or eaten by rats or getting set on fire or whatever, or I can't remember all of them, but
the heights. There was the one where he was on the high pillar.
Yeah,
falling. I mean they would be that's very like solid
the primal fears, and you can what they try to make the applicant their supplicant believe that they are going to die. They can die in this test, and that if they pull the rope, they will fail. The point and what it is like everybody fails the test. Because they eventually pull the rope. Most people don't even last a minute. Gavin himself only lasted
Garrett, 1:25.
Yeah, and then
because Dazen's the only one that beat it. The current Prism, his real name Dazen, he's the only one that actually beat it in history.
Yeah, and Kip actually throws the rope away, and then as he's like out of the pit because he's like, fuck this, I ain't failing.
Yeah. And then, he's got a real big chip on his shoulder to prove that he's not a nobody.
Yeah. And he's like reaches up, and then this one chick, she like puts his back in his hand. He's like, there you go, Tubby. And then he pulls the rope.
That was when they put him in there. She didn't call him Tubby in the one. That was when he got put in there.
No, she says it when she hands him the rope back. She's like, here you go, Tubby or Fatty or whatever.
Oh, wow.
She manipulated his test, so everyone's mad at her. But you can't repeat the test because now you know the trick.
Yeah. It was... I like that, too. And then they explain, like, what you draft is based off your fear.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you get scared, it, like, dilates your eyes, and you get, like, hit by, like, the flashes of whatever light. And as you get, like...
And I like that Gavin gets the crystal that sees what happens in like his office, and he sees it go, and he's like, "Oh shit!" and he runs down.
No, he right at the moment where it would report the results, he overloads the crystal so that it like glitches out, and then he replaces it with like the what he wants it to say. So he's like, "Oh, I already know he can do green and red or whatever. I don't want green blue." I don't want anyone to know that he can do all this other shit.
Yeah, because remember when he did the red, Liv Danovis was down in Haradul's army, and she's like, they see that big plume of fire, and she's just like,
pillar of fire.
Oh wait, he can't do red. Okay, so it goes off to now, as they're building the wall. We're going back a little bit more towards the plot line now.
We're kind of jumping back and forth. It's fine.
Yeah, we are. This book was so much fun. Like it is like it's. organizing it into a cohesive thought is like a 5-year-old trying to tell you about their birthday party. Like, it was I had so much fun with this. Like, Ben and I have been rambling back and forth about this book for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just like, and we keep being like, shut up, we got to do, no, we want to talk about it right now. Like, so we have like 50 half conversations that we're like, save it for the stream. You shut the fuck up, I don't want to. Like, but it was.
I kept having to ask Joel what party was on. So that
but it comes down to the whites. You don't really understand the purpose. You feel like you're led to believe they all go crazy. That's at the very beginning, with the blue, white in the red desert, and the Prism kills them. They get you get the impression that a white goes insane immediately, and they're a danger to everybody. Now, right. Haradul does not operate, and he finds a polychrome that has the worst name in any book I've ever heard. Lord Omnichrome. That's like the name of an 80s synth band.
I twitched every time I heard that name. It was like a Bond villain.
I was like, Brent Weeks knocked it out of the park with everything else. And then he's like, he just phoned in this last name. Lord Omnichrome. But it fit. I mean, it did because he had, not really Omni. Isn't that one? Isn't Omni one? Like, I don't know. Like,
no, Omni is all.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I don't know words. Words are hard.
Yeah. That's right. Shadow is, it does tie into that with the Thresher because, like, even the people that, like, come from families of drafters, they know that's a fake test, but then you have to make them think. Still have to make the have-nots think that it can kill you or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
we talked about that before you got on, about how there's always one that's like, is this the guy we're supposed to murder?
Yeah.
That was brilliant, though.
Yeah.
But back to the story of this one. You encounter, not only does Tyria have the entire group of people are jaded, they hate everybody else, you come to find out that at the end of a drafter's life or term of service is something called the freeing, which I, up until it happened, thought that just was they're like, good job, go home, retire, do whatever. And so the first freeing, he's like, oh, Harlem, thanks you for your service. Your sins have been absolved. And then he stabs him. You're like, holy shit, like they kill you. And so Lord Omnichrome is like
I can't believe you didn't see that coming. As soon as he starts this thing that he's like, oh, I hate this time of year. I puke every time.
I just thought it was going to be like a lot of circumstances shit. No. Like I thought it was going to be like a bunch of boring festivals.
No.
And there's 200. He has 200 people he's supposed to free.
Just stabbed in the heart in cold blood.
Yeah, he just stabs them. And you're like, whoa, holy shit. And that's the linchpin of where they're drawing these drafters in. You get these people who are white. They don't want to die. They don't want to give up their service. A lot of them are angry and jaded. And they're like, this is what I do. I busted my ass. I lose my mind. I give up everything I have. And then you stab me. And you're like, oh, God, thanks you. Stab in the chest and you're dead. And so Haradul and Lord Omnichrome get together and they're like, we love you. Mm-hmm. You're weird, crystal-covered ass. Come over here. And all the whites are like,
you weird, scarred-up fire dude that likes burning things.
Right? You weird, sprinkling green freak. Get over here. And so they're
all the best.
Yeah. And so they're like, we're wonderful.
Well, it also comes into this sort of haves or have-nots, because even Gavin's parents, they've held on longer than most drafters would because they can afford to not have to draft things. They can pay people to do it. So even though it hurts, apparently it gives you it's if you spent all your life being able to just conjure up, whatever you want at a whim, and then all of a sudden you can't do it anymore, or else you're gonna
That's what was driving the mom crazy because she wasn't able to draft for years.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, and the dad was like barely holding himself together.
It makes it so bad that you can't even be like exposed to light. Eventually it gets so bad you can't even like be exposed to certain light frequencies, or I'm gonna call them frequencies, or else it'll like cause you to like degrade further. So like the
man, his dad
basically like lives in complete darkness so that he can like hold on and keep playing puppet, or keep thinking he's playing Puppet Master or whatever. Yeah,
Andros Guile. Which this is always one of the things that gets me in in any story where you got like this massively powerful protagonist, and then the dad who literally can't be in any kind of light is like, you better listen to me or I'll fuck you up. Like, I will go outside. I will open the window up and see what you're going to think. Like,
well, it's because he sits on the council or whatever. So he's...
Yeah, but like, it's just, it's just it's a very interesting thing about how the dad still has so much authority, yet he can't be in any light whatsoever. Like, but I mean, but it was done in such a way that it didn't feel like an unbelievable facet. Like, he was intimidating. This dude cannot be in light, period. He's so powerful. He cannot be in light. His son is literally the embodiment of, like, the entire Green Lantern Corps, except way cooler. And is like, okay, Dad. Like, you know? Like,
he's got to play nice because he was not the favorite son.
But it's still, like, he did... Yeah. It's very hard to balance a character when you have an obvious... powerhouse such as Gavin Guile, who's such a strong, powerful character, and then his dad is so obviously debilitated. Like, to be a drafter that can't even be in the light because his halo will break. That's a serious bit of handicapping. So you shouldn't be able to have a power dynamic. Yet Andros Guile came across as like a truly intimidating dude.
Yeah. Well, because I think what you find out is, like, Gavin is inherently good. Like, even though his brother's a complete and total dickhole. But
there's still the power dynamic.
He can't even bring himself to kill his brother because of how much of a even though he's, like, an evil jackass.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's still the power dynamic. It's like the old stories of Superman. Like, Superman listened to Jonathan Kent out of respect.
Yeah.
He didn't listen because Jonathan Kent could beat the shit out of him.
Well, like, I think that's the thing, is like, he can't kill him because, like,
that's not who he is.
Well, also because he sits on the the chromatic council or whatever. So, like,
I don't know.
I think he's bound. He can't, like, do anything against his dad because his dad's on the council. So, like, as long as his dad sits on the council,
the council got confusing, but
basically you have a representative of every satrapy.
Yeah,
like every satrapy. I guess we didn't go into that. Every satrapy is associated with a color, and so you have to keep. The whole point of the Prism is they have to keep the balance act, and keep everyone at the same power level, and only drafting certain colors. A certain amount, because every satrapy has its own color that they use and they're associated with. You can have other drafters from other countries, but, like, this one's like, so, like, that's true. So you have this with Omnicrom, it's like, oh, we are all equal in the light or whatever, and then, like, all these non-drafters soldiers are, like, living in basically, like, squalor and, like, fighting over mutton legs, whereas all the drafters drafters have, like, slaves and servants and whatnot that are, like, catering to their every need. So it's obviously, like, even, like, the rebellion that's supposed to be, like, the equalizer is still inherently...
It was interesting because their entire rebellion was built off fuck those guys. Like, if you had to boil it all down,
Yeah.
Herodul and Omnichrome's entire rebellion was voiced off. You like the Chromarium? No, fuck those guys. Come over here.
Well,
you can be crazy and we'll still keep you. And then the common rabble were like, fuck the Satrapies. We hate you guys.
Again, it comes down to that sort of like dogma, the corruption dogma, like Shadow brought up. Like, because of how you have this sort of like status quo that is built up over centuries, I guess. But you have this, basically, like, you have these previous prisms that were complete tyrants.
Yeah.
But then you have a light council they're all like 70-year-old or like 80-year-old drafters that can't even draft anymore because they're so old, that are like leading this council that's supposed to
they're all out of touch.
That's supposed
Everybody's
that's supposed to like counsel the Prism, but the Prism can't even act as a like emperor anymore because it's become so corrupted, because there's been too many times where Prism was given control of the armies. What's up?
It was very interested where but one thing I like is it's such a fantastic job of displaying the corruption as it wasn't like, at no point was Brent Weeks in any of his story but like, look over here, isn't that fucked up? No, it was done in narrative form. Where
and I think that's like we talked about Poison Study like before, like they did the same thing, you know, like they're living in this like
shit got really fucked up. The commander took it over, tried to fix everything. Yeah. And now you still see it falling apart just because people with the power are wanting to take more. And one of the most interesting parts in showing like the systemic corruption in this world, and especially the Chromarium, was when Liv Danovis is going to go talk to her handler at the time before what'd you say?
Her sponsor.
Yeah, I can never remember her name, but like she sucks. Yeah, she sucks horribly. But they go into that one place, that one like cafe or whatever that has the secret, that has the muting. Like you can go in and get your communication essentially muted by ultraviolet, so you don't hear what's going on. And it's like, if you have to build in like espionage and secrety bullshit, like you're probably not living in an understanding society.
It's like if there's all this scheming and stuff happening, like you have to protect
you want our side chambers? We have them for a little bit extra. Yeah. You too can have a cone of silence over your dinner table.
And this is just like I think it was like a slightly upscale restaurant, but it was still like
yeah, but even like to have that there, like you are not like, all right, like
I don't care that like, much if people hear me talking about like whatever. Like I don't think I've ever been in a like restaurant where I like give a shit if the person in the booth next to me can hear what I say.
I mean, we've all been at the restaurant where somebody says something wild and you just look at whoever you're eating with and go, what the fuck are they talking about? Yeah. It's usually like on the weekend. Yeah, you hear? She's like, whoa.
Whoa.
Just gonna out that, huh? Right out here while I'm having a sandwich.
Yeah.
But
it was that one.
Yeah. But you think about it, and it just, he did such a great job. And I really think we should go straight to the next book and get an idea what that one is.
So I know
it left it such a massive cliffhanger, which if you want to give it, because we're running up on time, if you want to give breakdown of where it ended.
Yeah, so basically the book ends with Dazen, who was trapped. We didn't really talk about, he's trapped in a light prison of Gavin's making. And
which is the best argument. And it starts out,
you think it was like, oh, Dazen's escaping. Ooh, here we go. Like here's ratcheting up. Like I know where the next book's going, and he painstakingly escapes from this this first prison, gets out, and then immediately falls into another light prison of a different color. So now he has to find a completely new solution to like this other problem. So he goes from a blue prison to a green prison, and now he has to figure out how to escape that. So I assume that's going to be a theme of the next part of the next book. Kip finds out that Gavin is a
imposter.
Kip does not find out Gavin is an imposter.
No,
he finds out that he is basically, he finally finds a note from his mother who died in the attack at the beginning of the book, and he retrieves the box that contained the knife that she gave him, and finds out that he is the product of his mother being raped by the Prism, who he thinks is Gavin, who is actually the guy trapped currently in the prison. So that's fun. So he's going to be like trying to plot how he's going to kill his father/uncle
for a book. 16-year-old kid, he's got a lot of murder plot.
He's got a lot of baggage. I mean, he's 16 years old, saw his entire village like burnt and butchered.
Right. The Orange Drafters should really start out being like therapists. One should just start therapy.
Maybe there is. Maybe we find out there's an Orange Drafter therapy program.
Dude, that would make the whole story suck. Book 3. So, how was your week?
And Gavin finds out that he is degrading as a Prism because at the end of the book he is no longer able to draft blue Luxon.
It's like the most useful Luxon, and part of his gift.
Which is part of his grift. And, yes. And what's also interesting about that is we don't know. So Gavin gets stabbed by a white Luxon blade, but however that knife works, it doesn't leave a mark that he's been stabbed. He just thinks that his shirt got pierced, but we assume that he got stabbed. So it's not clear. I guess I know we'll find out in later books. It's not clear whether that Luxon blade took away his blue drafting skills.
Because it's not supposed to exist.
Yes.
You heard one reference of white Luxon, they're like, that's not real.
Yeah.
So now I'm like...
Yeah. So we're not sure if it's his Prism skills degrading due to his, the Prism abilities, or if it's because he got stabbed by the blade. But I'm sure we'll find out later. Anyways, we're coming up on time, Joel. I know you got to get going, but I believe it is my turn to choose a book. And I was giving this a bit of thought, and I feel like we need to return to a little bit of science fiction.
Oh, that's the wrong thing to say. The correct thing to say is we're going to be doing The Blinding Knife.
No! You can do that on your own time.
No!
So what I was thinking we should do for our next novel is go back to some good old classic sci-fi and read an Asimov novel known as The Foundation.
I don't like any of those words you said. Not even a little bit.
Have you read the book?
I want to go... No, I would like to register a complaint with the council.
And how do you know if you're going to like it or not, Joel? So we're reading The Foundation by Isaac Asimov.
I dislike everything you just said. I hate all of what you just said. I know you want.
Well, you can read the next book on your own time.
I'll read it in my next pick.
Yeah, there you go. That's your chance. So again, we're going to do The Foundation, which is another series of novels by Isaac Asimov. We've
got so many series we're going that we need to finish.
One of the original founders of science fiction. He's basically been attributed as. So we're going to do that.
This is a face of discontentment. I want you to look upon this face of unhappiness and realize...
Well, I can't choose Gazkul Thraka, Prophet of the Wa, yet, because Missy's not back, so...
Missy is going to be out for a while.
I know.
She will be with our little girl as she recovers from delivery.
Yeah.
Which we have been talking. She is still doing well. She's still in the NICU. She's gaining weight. We hope she'll be home in the next week.
But we found out that she gets horribly gassy from Chinese and spicy food. And it
we had a very rough weekend. We had a very rough weekend this weekend, in and out of the hospital. Well, she stayed in the hospital because she's a preemie. Mm-hmm. But she had a ton of tests done, and we were like, oh my God, what's going on with this little girl? She was horribly distended. Comes to find out, spicy food does not agree with a preemie.
Come to find out, she just needed to fart.
My wife's favorite food, spicy food. Mm-hmm. So he was like, oh, baby's born. I can eat whatever I want. The baby's like, fuck you, Mom. Can't.
Give it a few more months.
So we found that out. Missy stopped eating spicy food. Baby's back to normal. We're on track. So hopefully I will introduce you all to the littlest nerd who has the coolest onesie given to me by a friend of ours, which says it's a D20 that says level 1 human. And it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. So. Again, thank you, Shadow's Grace, for joining us. Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful book suggestion. Both me and Joel heavily loved it.
Fucking loved it. Such a good book.
We wish more of us would have been able to join us, but personal stuff got in the way for them, so it was just the two of us.
To be fair, we would have just overtalked them because we were really excited.
We were way more into it than they were.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, a magic book."
It's better. Like, shut the fuck up.
It was great. It was such a good book. We will be seeing the rest of the series
eventually.
We will, at another date. But right now, what is it?
We'll be doing The Foundation by Isaac Asimov. And we will we'll see you guys again on Wednesday. I guess we need to talk to the group about what our topic will be. Oh no, we're doing vampires again, aren't we? Next week?
Holy shit, we haven't finished vampires yet? Wow, it has been a week.
I thought we were revisiting vampires. Are we revisiting vampires?
It's Halloween, why not?
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll revisit vampires. If not, we'll figure it out by Wednesday.
Hey, it'll be a classic monster any way you look at it. You're looking at vampires, werewolves, some of the classics we'll be talking about, local legends, where they come from, stuff like that.
We're gonna do some more spooky stuff.
Season. Love it.
Again, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again on Wednesday or Monday or
Wednesday and Monday.
Yep.
Again, Shadow's Grace, excellent. Any more ideas like that, keep firing them our way.
Yeah. And
you guys can get a hold of us.
Anyone else who's watching, send us some suggestions. We'll look into them.
Yeah. Check out our socials. Nerds of Legend is on Instagram. Check out our YouTube. This will be uploaded on Friday at 7 p.m. Also on our podcast, 7 p.m. It is Nerds of Legend on Spotify or wherever you find your podcast. Nerds of Legend G1 on Twitter and Nerds of Legend on YouTube. So give us if you want to hear this again or listen to it and criticize what we had to say. You're welcome to. Any interaction is a good interaction. Thank you guys.